Hello, everyone. Welcome to the April edition of LinkedIn Live with Steve White. I'm so excited about being here with you. First of all, I'm excited about spring. I hope you are as well. But the reason we do this LinkedIn Live, we talk a lot about your purpose in your fight. And I share with everyone the two most important days in your life is the day you're born. The second is when you know why. And I truly believe the reason I was placed on this earth, because there were so many people that gave me a hand up, not a handout, that allowed me to come out of some very difficult circumstances growing up, the housing projects of Indianapolis, a single mother raising four boys. You don't achieve some level of success unless there are a lot of people helping you. And there were a number of people giving me a hand up. So my true purpose is how can I help create a table of prosperity for as many people as possible? And so what I try to do is that journey that I've been on, how can I share? How can I pay it forward? How can I share my lessons, the wins, the successes, but also the failures? That's why we do this LinkedIn Live. So first of all, let me say thank you to all of you that have purchased my book, Uncompromising, that was released last March. If you haven't purchased it, please check it out. You can go to my website, stevewhitespeaks.com, and you can sample some of the book. There's some excerpts there. There's some other interesting information. So please go check out stevewhitespeaks.com. Thank you to all of you that follow me on social media, on LinkedIn and Facebook. Hopefully you're finding it useful and helpful. As always, feedback is welcomed. And so I'm really excited about continuing to share and really continue to live my purpose. So let's get to this April LinkedIn Live. It's going to be awesome. And I've got a special guest that's going to join me today. I really want to talk about this idea of what is your purpose? What is your fight? Back to that Mark Twain quote, the two most important days in your life, the day you're born, the second is when you know why. And that's what we want to focus on today. That's our objective. And I know you're sick of listening and following me, so I want to bring on a special guest. So Sean, why don't you join me today? I've got a special guest that's going to join us and help us talk about this idea of what is your purpose, what is your fight, and all of that good stuff. So I'm welcoming a good friend of mine. So full disclosure, Sean and I worked together at Comcast, but he was one of these big birds. We could only keep him so long and he had to fly away, but he is doing some incredible things and he really is connected to his purpose and why. And I thought it would be helpful to welcome him and have you hear from him. So Sean, why don't you introduce yourself? So Sean, not Henry, but why don't you tell everybody how to pronounce your last name, first of all, because I'm clearly screwing it up. And Sean, who are you? Give us the 60-second version of who is Sean.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you. I'm happy to be here, Steve. And everyone gets it wrong. It's Sean Ilenrey. I know it's tough. Sorry, my parents did it. But, my background is I started off as a high school dropout who was homeless at the beginning of my adult life. And I was able to turn my life around within 10 years and make it to the director and VP level. And now currently I'm the vice president of support at Dutchie, which is an amazing organization. But I also have Corporate Dad, where I do public speaking and workshops. And I'm highly passionate about just serving and helping others, especially other leaders, get to where they want on their journey. So I've had the pleasure of leading teams internationally, whether it's in Latin America or Asia. But ultimately, I've learned that it's about what's bigger than me, so I'm excited to talk about it today.
Great. Sean, I'm so inspired by your story. So why don't you tell everybody, what is your purpose? Why do you believe you've been placed on this earth? And when did you discover it? And how did you discover it? So maybe tell everybody, what is your purpose? And how did you discover it? And when did you discover it?
Yes, my purpose, it changed for me, similar to how you talked about it in your book. But I've learned that my purpose is to help others who've had setbacks understand that does not classify or identify who they are or who they're going to become. And I think a lot of times we think that life should be like a rocket, that we should just blast off and it's a perfect trajectory. When in reality, it's funny, I actually got this when I worked at Comcast. life is more like a slingshot, right? You're gonna have setbacks, but the great thing about a slingshot is that you got to pull back to launch forward. And I didn't figure that out until I had an opportunity to relocate to Mexico. For many years, I thought my purpose was I got to help my mom who was ill, my grandma, my wife, and our young child. We were all living together, and it was about my family, just my family. Let's just get it to the next place in life. Let's grind and make sure that they get the best quality of life. And then I learned moving to Mexico that there's more out there. There's other individuals who've had bigger setbacks than I have. And Miguel's a perfect example. We talk about him in the blog, where this is a person who was an engineer making amazing money in the US, almost six figures, who then relocated back to Mexico and found himself in a position where his entire family was living in his aunt's shed. And he's making $4 or $5 an hour. And I had the opportunity to promote him as an analyst onto my team and see his value and see what his worth was. And eventually we got him to be the manager of our log and admin department. And the last time I saw him, it was amazing. He brought me to his house that he had built for him and his family. So we were able to take the power of leadership and opportunity and not only impact him, but to impact the people around him. And at that point, I knew this is my purpose.
Yeah. And so as you discovered that, how do you stay connected to that purpose? So once you say, okay, I've got it, maybe share with our listeners, what questions should they be asking themselves as they try to figure out why they've been placed on this earth? It seemed like it took you a while, but you found it. But if I'm sitting at home today, or I'm sitting in my office and I'm trying to figure out what is my direction, how would you advise someone to go find their purpose or identify it or begin the journey?
Yeah, I've heard this so many different ways. And I think the first thing we have to identify is that your passion is not your purpose. And a lot of people think, oh, I'm not passionate about this, I don't want to do it. And really, when I think of purpose, I always say, go back and identify what was it that you wanted to do when you were a child? What was that career aspiration you had? And maybe you say, you know what, I really wanted to be a fireman. And you're not that today, but find out why. What are those values behind it? So for example, athletes grow up thinking, basketball is my passion, it's my purpose. They get injured, can't play again, and they feel lost. The reality of it was never basketball. It was key values aligned to their personal purpose. So it may be, I love self-development. It could be, I love being a part of a winning team. And it could also be, I want to constantly challenge myself. So then all you have to do is say, these are the things that align with my values. And once you figure out your value, when you go out into the world, figure out what comes the easiest to me. When I'm doing it, where do I feel the most that I'm helping others and serving the individuals around me? But I always say, take it back to childhood. Even if you want to be an astronaut, superhero, figure out what are the key attributes you saw in those values that made you say, this is what I want to do with my life.
Yeah. One of the I go through three questions, kind of what am I good at? What am I passionate about that I would even do it for free? So I'm here to say Sean's not being paid for this. So this is clearly part of his passion. He's doing it because he believes in it. Sean, one of the things that I love to share with people that, hey, show me the 5 or 6 people you spend the most time with, and I'll tell you who you are. Yes. How do you do an inventory of the people that you're spending time with and maybe move them out of your life if they're not helping you live your best life and live your purpose? How do you do that inventory to make sure that you've got the men and women around you that are supporting your purpose and helping you, not in always telling you, what you want to hear, but being that honest broker? What process do you go through to ensure that you've got the right people around you so you can live your purpose and your best life?
I love this one. For me, I am innately a person who loves to give. And there's a lot of individuals who are like that, especially once you get into leadership. We have a mindset of what can I do for the next person? And what has been a good barometer for me is almost look at it like your net worth, right? Your assets and your liabilities. Who in my life is adding energy versus who in my life is taking away energy? And when you find yourself in a position where you're constantly feeling drained, you're feeling as if, these relationships are pulling me down, those are not the right relationships you need in life. In addition, if you find yourself in a room where you feel like you're the smartest person, you're the most talented, you're not going to stretch. So you want to find individuals who not only can pour energy into you, but who can also make you believe that your cup can be a little bit larger than what it is.
Yeah. Sean, you did something really interesting, and I was the beneficiary. You did something called I'm going to show flowers. And you did something that really moved me. Maybe share with everyone what you did and why you did it and how that fits with your purpose in living your best life.
Oh, yes. So it all ties back to something you said. You say frequently, none of us are self-made. There's been individuals who've pulled us up along the way. And I remember being back in December, it's the holidays, so we're thinking about giving. And I sat down, and I really thought there have been some key people in my life who have helped me more than they even know they have, right? Because we don't ever express it. And I want to take the opportunity to publicly display that. So each Friday, starting in December, I would release a video called Giving Your Flowers Friday. And, where I'm from, giving your flowers means giving your flowers while you're still here to smell them. We're not waiting until you're gone. I'm going to let you know right now. So it was a joy to me just as much as it was a joy to the people who received those.
And so this idea of playing flowers is you're showing a level of vulnerability. And why is that so important to living your best life?
For many years, I was afraid of my background. I was afraid of the skill set I didn't have. And I was afraid to be fully vulnerable just about how I truly thought of people. And I think our egos get in the way, fear, past experiences. And for me, it just came down to what really matters. Do I care that, Steve may be embarrassed or think that, hey, what is this guy saying? Or do I care that I can tell it to him while he's still here? Do I care that I'm doing the right thing? So to me, it came all down to what's most important. It's not about my ego. It's about making sure that I'm pouring into someone else's cup who already poured more than enough into mine.
Yeah. And you can never outgive, can you? You can never outgive. Sean, you obviously are thinking about a book as well. I share with everybody, thanks to everybody who purchased Uncompromising. It's been a joy promoting the book. You're obviously trying to figure, there you go, I love it. But you're also thinking about how can you continue to pay it forward and putting this in written form. Maybe tell some of our listeners about that.
Yeah, so, over the last year, I've been a lot more active on LinkedIn for a couple of reasons, but the main reason is representation. I think it's important that for those from different backgrounds, we have to be able to show that it is possible. When you're able to hear someone's voice, it's a thought leader in an industry, and they look or they come from a socioeconomic background that you can identify with, you then know, once again, how big your cup can actually be. So I became more passionate about putting that out there, and I noticed that a lot of the individuals that I work with or my peers or the people I mentor don't necessarily maximize developing their professional brand. Your professional brand speaks for you when you're not in the room. And it's so important and vital that we curate that. So I'm in the process of actually publishing a book called The LinkedIn Professional Brand Guide and Planner. So I'm excited about it because I think a lot of individuals are not maximizing their LinkedIn profiles, but also how do you identify who you are in that process and know your brand voice and what your values are.
Sean, as we wrap up, I always like to leave people with, hey, here's what you can go do. One of the things we talked about, and Sean mentioned this earlier, every month we do a blog. And so if you are not receiving my monthly blog, please go to my website, stevewhitespeaks.com. You can sign up. You can get this month's blog, which focuses on this whole idea of what is your fight. You can get back editions. So please go check it out. I think you'll be enriched. But one of the things we talk about in the blog this month are what are the daily habits you can go through to ensure that you stay focused on your mission, because life happens, right? We have children, we have heartaches, we have illness. And so it's very important to set your mind right to make sure. And you talked about these 4 habits: feed your mind, start your day with focus, schedule checkpoints or breaks, and then something called leave 20%. So let's leave our listeners on a real high. Talk about those 4 things so each and every day you're living your purpose.
Yes. So number 1, feed your mind. It's no longer about work ethic. Work ethic is important, but it's all about study ethic. You have to constantly make sure you're feeding your mind. So first thing in the morning while you're getting ready, whatever it may be, make sure you're taking in information that can help you become a better leader, a better marketer, a better salesman, whatever it may be. Make sure you feed yourself first, because you will find yourself throughout the day pouring into the other's cup. So make sure you're getting that back. Number two, start your day with focus. I'm a big believer in block out the first hour of your calendar. And I used to be very bad with this, where I would just put everything on my calendar and go after it as much as I could. And I realized I was being so reactive. I couldn't be strategic and actually think about what is the most effective thing I could do today and have the most impact and the most value. So make sure you do that for yourself. Number three, schedule checkpoints. We can find ourselves throughout the day where, okay, I'm moving along, I'm going back to back, I'm having to make decisions. Take a pause and actually say, what did I actually do today? Was it aligned with what I guaranteed that I would do first thing this morning? Did I make the impact I thought I would? Is there somewhere else I should pivot to? And last but not least, leave 20%. As much as it can be enticing to try to book your entire day, have focus time breaks throughout that are really focused on you being able to say, if someone on my team needs me, or a peer or colleague needs me because of an ad hoc issue, I want to have the bandwidth to actually go and help them. The last thing you want to be is resentful that this individual or this person on my team is messing up my plan for the day. So don't try to be so rigid. Give yourself 20% to be flexible.
Well, I love that. Feed your mind. Start your day with focus. I love that, because I call it reflection time. Schedule checkpoints or breaks so you can be the best you can be, and then leave that 20% to serve others. But don't forget, serve yourself too. As part of that 20%, whatever you got to do to feed your company. Sean, if you're not following Sean, please check him out on LinkedIn. He's a dynamite leader. Sean, thank you so much for being with us. You are a blessing to me and the rest of all of our listeners. Thank you for joining today.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody.
Great. All right. Thank you, Sean. That was awesome. He's terrific. I hope you enjoyed this month's LinkedIn Live with Steve White. It's all about the important question, the two most important days in your life, the day you're born. The second is when you know why. And that's what we focused on today. So thank you again to everyone that supported the book, that are following me on LinkedIn and Facebook, going to the website, stevewhitespeaks.com. This is me living my purpose, and I'm hopeful you're benefiting from it. Thanks again, and I'll see you in May on LinkedIn Live with Steve White.